Databricks just made work with Excel files a whole lot easier, which I'm really excited about because in the past it was quite difficult and clunky to be able to read data stored in Excel files. So you have to do a lot of parsing and of course you have to do a lot of data wrangling. But all of that have now come to an end with the new Excel file format support. You can now import Excel workbooks directly into your Databricks volumes for data processing. And with this new feature, data engineers are no longer restricted to the popular file formats such as CSV, JSON, AVO, and Parquet. This new feature supports batch and streaming workloads. In addition, you can ingest data that is stored locally on your laptop and, of course, data stored in your cloud storage accounts such as Azure Storage accounts, AWS S3 bucket, and Google Cloud Storage. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to get started by reading Excel files in Databricks Notebook. So let's get started. Now, before we go into the practical side of things, let's inspect our Excel workbooks and the data stored in it. So I'm going to come to this folder and I've got this orders 2022.xlsx extension, and we have the 2023, 2024, and 2025 transactions. I'm going to come to this window, and this is the orders 2022, and we've got this columns of data from the customer ID, customer name, email, country, customer type, registration date, age, gender, and total purchases. So all this data are stored not in the CSV format, but in Excel workbook standard format, and which is really exciting. Now I'm going to come to my browser, and the first thing I want to do is to enable the Excel file format support because it is currently in beta, not in the public preview. So you want to go to your Azure Databricks workspace, just like and I'm going to navigate to the top right hand corner and go to previews. And then you want to search in this filter previews, search for Excel, and we're going to see the Excel file format support in beta. So this is turned off automatically, so you need to turn it on, which I've done in my case. And of course, once this is turned on, go ahead and refresh your page. And of course, before you leave this page, you must ensure that you've got a cluster that is running on the 17.1 runtime or above. So I'm going to come to my compute, and I've got this Abyss cluster, and you can see this cluster is actually running on 17.3 LTS Databricks runtime. So this is more than the 17.1 that is recommended. So once you have a cluster ready, and you want to make sure that it is fired up, so it must be started and it must be running. So once these two are sorted, we can go and read our data stored in Excel file. Now, before we start reading, it is important we bring the data into the Databricks workspace. So Databricks recommend moving your data into the volumes storage account. So I'm going to come to catalog, and I've got this learning catalog and I've got this learning schema. So in this case, I've got no delta tables or any volumes. So I want to create a new volume, and I'm going to call this one Excel data, and it's going to be a managed volume. Of course, if your Excel files is resident in external storage accounts like Azure Storage account, AWS S3 bucket, or Google Cloud Storage, you can use the external volume to connect to all this data, which is absolutely fine. But in this case, we're going to use the managed volume. We're going to allow the Databricks to manage the life cycle of all our files. So I'm going to stick with the managed volume type. So go ahead and click on create. And in a matter of seconds, the volume is now created. Now, I'm going to organize my files because this is what I really recommend as a best practice. So I'm going to create a directory, and let's say we get data maybe on a daily basis or on a weekly basis. You want to actually store them differently. You want to put them together. So this is why creating directory is really recommended. So let me just call this on sales dir. You can use whatever you want to call them based on your data strategy or your direction in your organization. So I'm going to click on create. And then I'm going to use the upload to this volume. Now I'm going to quickly bring in the orders 2022 and 2023.xlsx extension. So I can see the two files provisioned, and I'm going to just hit the upload, and then they are now in the sales DI of the Excel data volume. So I'm going to close this And when I try to inspect, unfortunately, this is not supported. So you can inspect the order file format like the CSV, but it's not supported for Excel workbook. No problems. So once this is sorted, I can just go ahead and create my notebook. So let's call this one Excel for data processing, and I'm going to press enter. So in this cell, I'm going to be importing some of the modules that I need for data processing. So I'm going to paste this. So from Pyspark to SQL to types, I'm importing struct field, struct type, integer type, string type, and date type modules. And of course, I'm going to perform a little bit of data analysis. So I'm going to be performing group by. So we need to also import the necessary modules from the Pyspark.sql.functions. I'm going to create a new cell. Now, when you're reading data in an Excel worksheet of an Excel workbook, you must explicitly define your schema. Otherwise, there may be some problem later on. So let me quickly come to the Excel 2022 and 2023. You can see the name of the worksheet is sales. And when I come to the 2023, the same name applies. The same thing for the 2024 and 2025. And the reason is because we need to supply the sheet name for the data address option of the Excel file format. So you want to make sure that they are the same in order not to cause conflict, because if they have different names, this won't work as expected. So that's why I'm using the same name, but the name of the Excel files are different from one another based on the orders 2022, 2023, 2024, and 2025. So I'm going to come back here and let's go ahead and define our schema. Let's just create a content or a comment here. Let's call this one schema definition. And I'm going to create a variable called schema. And for this, I'm going to use the struct type. So I'm just going to paste struct type, open the bracket, inside the square bracket, I'm going to just open it up, and then we need to provide a list of the columns. So I'm going to use the struct field and then open the brackets, and then inside double quotes, the name of the first column is the custom ID, and the data type is going to be a string data type. So I'm going to come in, Ctrl V, open and close the bracket, and I'm going to specify this to be true, and I'm going to put in a comma. And in order to avoid having to rewrite all of this again, I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste. And let me quickly check. So the next columns are string. So I'm going to paste 4 times, third time, fourth. And this is going to be the customer name. And this is going to be the email. And this is going to be country. And let me check it out. So we have the customer name, email, country, and then the next is the registration date. So I'm just going to change this from string to date type, and I'm going to call this one registration underscore date, and I can move to the next. So we need the integer string. So I'm going to Ctrl V, and this is going to be age, and I'm going to change this to integer type, and the next is going to be the gender. So I can get rid of this and use the gender. So this is fine. And the final one is going to be an integer. So I'm going to copy this, and I think this should be the total purchases. So I'm going to type in total underscore purchases. Okay, and this is going to be an integer data type. So let me quickly check it out just to make sure that we have everything correct. So we have the customer name, email, country. So customer name, email, country, and I missed this customer type. So that should be after the country, and let me quickly copy this. Now that's why it's a good idea to just check it out before you commit. So this is going to be customer underscore type, and I'm going to use the same string type. So we have explicitly defined the schema. So I'm going to press Ctrl Enter to run, and this executed easily. So let's go ahead and create a new cell. So we want to go ahead and read the Excel files in the volume we just created. So I'm going to just call this one df to create a data frame, so df, and I'm going to use the spark.read.format. So this is where the Excel comes in. So inside double quotes, I'm going to type in Excel, just like you type if your file format is CSV, you're going to type in CSV. If your file format is Parquet, you're going to type in Parquet here. So this is where we're going to type in the Excel as our file format. So I'm going to type in dot. Now I'm going to also specify that, hey, my data contain headers. So I'm going to use the option method, and inside double quotes, I'm going to type in header rows, and I'm going to specify, hey, this one, and I'm going to put in period. So we want to use the option method again, and because we've got the schema defined at the top, I'm going to say, hey, I've got the schema at the top. So this should be schema and dot, and we need to specify the data address. Now you can read a data in a range of cells in your Excel workbook, but in our case, we want to read the data in each of the entire worksheet that do not contain any blanks, columns, or rows. So I'm going to use the last option here, and I'm going to say, hey, the data address is going to capture all the worksheet named inside double quote sales. So that's the name of the worksheet. And then we can use the load method inside double quotes. And I'm going to go to my Unity catalog, go to the schema, and then we can go to the volume. So I want to copy this. Now I want to come in here. I don't need to copy. I can just use the double arrow. Just make sure your cursor is positioned inside this double quote and give this a click, and this is going to automatically populate that for you. And then we can use the display method to display the content of the data frame, that is reading all these Excel files in this directory using the Excel file format. So I can press Control Enter to run. Amazing, we are able to successfully read our Excel files, and this is the result. So we can see we have the customer ID, customer name, email, country, customer type, registration date, age, and we have the total purchases at the right, including the gender. Absolutely easy. So this is quite straightforward, not too difficult, and this is what I love about this new Excel file format. Absolutely easy. Now let's go ahead and perform a little bit of the analysis. So we want to perform total purchases grouped by the year. So you can see we don't have a year as a column, so we need to find a way to write the Pyspark code to extract the year from this registration date, and then we're going to group by the total purchases. So let's see how we can do all of that. So I'm going to create another cell at the bottom, and let's call this one total sales as a variable name, and I'm going to use the df dot, and we want to use the group by method, and because we want to extract the year, I'm going to use the year function and use the call method, and then I'm going to inside double quote provide the name of the column, which is the registration date, and we want to actually alias so that we can see sales year or year sales as the column name. So I'm going to use dot alias here, and if you know how to PySpark, this is familiar. So I'm going to call this one sales underscore inside double quote sales underscore year. You can use whatever you like, it is absolutely up to you. And then we can use the aggregation method, and then since we want to summarize, I'm going to use the sum function call, and inside the double quote I'm going to call the total underscore purchases because we want to sum by the total purchases, and of course we want to give this a nice name. So you want to come here, it is quite straightforward, and I'm going to use the alias and open the bracket, and let's call this one total sales. So PySpark is actually not difficult if you understand where to put in your brackets and what to do. So it's so easy. And then we can just go ahead and use the display method to display the content of this total sales variable that we declared here, that is holding all of this. So we can press Ctrl Enter to run the cell, and there we go. We have the total sales by the sales year 2022 and 2023. Absolutely fantastic. Now let's go ahead and load the 2024 transaction Excel workbook into the volume. I'm going to come here and let me come to the catalog, and let's expand the learning, schema, and I'm going to go to the directory we created. I'm going to quickly upload and then we continue. Okay, so this is the 2024 provisioned, and I'm going to click on upload, and this is now uploaded as the third file. So let me come here. So I can just use the run all, and when I go to the bottom, see what happened. Yeah, boom, we have the total sales for the 2024 included. Fantastic, because all the data have the same structure. And let's bring in the 2025, and I'm going to quickly do that again so we can see that here. Upload, go back here, run our sales, watch out for what happens here. We're going to say the 2025. Absolutely fantastic. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is to write the df itself into my Unity catalog. So I'm going to come here, create a new cell, and I'm going to say, hey, df.write method, and I'm going to specify the format. And I'm going to say, hey, this is going to be written as a delta table, and then we can specify the mode, what I want to append or overwrite. So I'm going to use the overwrite, and then we can use the save as table method. And inside double quotes, I'm going to come here and I can expand the learning catalog, and I'm going to copy the schema path, and I can Control V to paste, and let's call this one sales TBL from Excel, and I'm going to press Control Enter to run, and let's see whether this is going to be written as a delta table. So yeah, it's looking good with this check mark, and there we go. We have this written. Let's check it out. I'm going to quickly refresh and go to the catalog, go to the learning catalog, go to the learning schema, and then we can see the tables, and we can see the sales TBL from Excel. Click on that. Under the overview, we can see the list of the columns, we can see the data types, and of course, when it comes to the sample data, you need to connect to a compute. So a serverless starter warehouse is going to be more than enough in order for you to preview the content of your delta table, and in a matter of seconds, we have all the columns visible. Absolutely easy. So we can see the customer ID, customer name, email, country, customer type, registration, and the up to the total purchases. So this is how easy to read and write your Excel data into the Unity catalog in Databricks. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. Cheers.